How I listen to 200 plus books in 10 years of speed listening. My lowest speed is when I listen to books at 310% of 3.1. My currently highest speed, 3.5, is for podcasts. This allowed me to read without reading. I only listen in secondary time, meaning I don't do anything, just to listen to books in the meanwhile, but instead listen to books if and when I'm doing something already where I can listen to books. It allowed me to increase my book count to 461 before speed listening, and changing my reading to listening exclusively has its downsides. Visual books for example, I had read about 100 to 200 books. Also audiobooks was harder years ago. Availability, player storage constraints. About 10 plus years ago, I dove into podcasting. My podcast app allowed to increase the playback speed. Back then, 3.2, maximally 3.0, which used to drain my phone battery a lot faster, also my brain. Now it's different. Audible covers a lot of books with their audio equivalent. I am also using Script, a flat rate service, but worse availability compared to Audible. But on Audible, you still have to purchase single books for the most part, not a flat rate. But I want to listen intently and closely. Of course, I can choose to listen to something in 1.0, but often this is 1, comparably less interesting, and 2, it lacks the training effect. I occasionally already tried higher speeds, such as 3.0 years ago. I just didn't understand everything, but now I can listen to books in 3 or more and understand. Of course, also I would understand more, I assume at least, if I would listen to in 1.0. But that's not the point. The point is to have more options, just like skimming or speed reading allows you to find what's interesting more efficiently. I do not have to spend 22 hours of visual reading to read one book. But instead, at playback speed 3, 9 hours of playback become 3 hours. 21 hours become 7 hours. The average audiobook is about 10 hours. I can listen to the average book in, let's round up to 4 hours, 320 minutes. This could be in 2 weeks. 2 times 40 minutes weekly training bike ride, equaling 80 minutes. Driving with bikes somewhere else for 2 weeks, about 60 minutes. Stretching every day for 10 minutes, equaling 140 minutes, equaling an audiobook every 2 weeks. It's somewhat similar to doing pull-ups. Since beginning to resistance train, my PR was about 25 pull-ups. I plateaued for about 14 years at about 25, sometimes 30 pull-ups. In the last year, I began to do weighted pull-ups, and recently I was able to do 36. Of course, one can try to pay very close attention to every single pull-up, every single rep, making sure the mind-muscle connection is top and maybe top secret. But it's easier for me to do 5 reps with now 30 to 40 kilograms additional weight for a few seconds than to do 35 reps for well more seconds. This makes the seconds of my workout more effective by using a different technique that makes the single rep a lot harder. Just like speed listening means I can listen harder. Of course, it's then mentally somewhat demanding. Just like weighted pull-ups are more demanding than unweighted pull-ups, but I now can do both now. And I now can even do more of the unweighted ones despite of years trying to increase my PR there without adding weight. For years now, people every now and then told me, "You're a good listener." I might have been before, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't have written this. But probably being able to listen to 3.0 or higher also allows me to listen to conversations a little better. Maybe that's a stretch too far, but what if training listening heavy with added weight with increased speed allows you to then also listen to real conversations with a higher time resolution? In case you are wondering how fast one adapts, I don't know, but I can tell you how fast my brain seems to have adapted. Through the last 10 years, I was able to increase by about 0.1 or 10% without much effect on comprehension every few weeks or months. That's about 10 years of training, but also with podcast where I currently have 107 days of tracked listening time. If a new book comes out, recently PTRT's Outlive, for example, then if I prioritize it, I usually I'm able to be finished a few weeks after release, sometimes a few days, without changing how much podcast I listen to and spending any primary time visual reading. But downsides, anything that requires graphs and formulas is in audiobook form, maybe not ideal, but that's mostly due to listened to books being audiobooks. Sometimes you can just listen while doing something else. What I do in this case, I just stop the playback, think the thoughts I need to think, get back on my bike over the crossing, get with my bike over the crossing, and when I am ready for input again, I press play. This also seems to bypass the with visual reading occurring I read but don't understand problem occurring after some reading time. Because you're already doing something else, you can just pause reading. But if you're reading, well... But I still have about 300 books to go if I want to even read as many books as the average human during their lifetime. 735 for females and 684 for male. In summary, 10 years of speed listening. Speed listening allows to listen to more books by increasing playback speed. With the same time, this allows to linearly increase books read. Speed 2 allows you to read twice as much. Speed listening could have a training effect. Practical implementation. Most audio services go at least to 3.0 or even 5.0. Increasing playback speed by 0.1 or 10% every couple of weeks or months seems to have worked, at least for me. By avoiding primary listening time, reading books only exchanges thinking time with listening time, but leaves other activities alone.